Hi team, welcome back to the series of Gosu programming language. So many of the developers who have already started learning on Guidewire programming, Guidewire technology might have been confused. Is Java and Gosu different? So there are syntactical changes between Java programming and Gosu programming. So in this series of videos, we are going to learn on a high level or in depth of the concepts that we have as part of Gosu programming language. So for the people who already learned about Java, might feel a little difference in terms of the syntax that we declare, in terms of the variable declaration, or in terms of the loopings that we do, like for loop, and in terms of the methods declaration. So in Java, we declare the data types towards your left side, but in Gosu, we declare it towards your right side. So in this series of classes as part of the Gosu programming language, so we are going to learn step by step on the fundamentals of the programming language as part of the Gosu. And then we initially start with variable declarations, data types, and then gradually we move ahead in understanding the block codes and whatnot, like class declarations, functions, methods, return types. Yep. So having said that, so this session is all about your Gosu programming language, not related to any of the technical concepts as part of the application level. So this Gosu programming language is common across all your applications like Policy Center, Claim Center, Billing Center, and Contact Manager. So irrespective of the application, the programming that you do among these applications is common, and you'll be redirected. Like mostly once you start understanding about the Java oops, it is easy for you guys to learn even Gosu programming language because Gosu itself is built on top of Java, so majority of the syntax remains the same. Just that the declaration, how we declare the data types and some of the syntaxes might be different. Okay, having said that, let's get started. So likewise, in every programming language, we learn about how to do a print statement. So even we'll get started with the same. This is my console. This is your debug console. So only when your server is running, you'll have this debug console. Okay. And majority of the people might forget and start the normal server. Always start your local application with the debug server. So once the server gets started, you have your console window and whatever we are going to write as part of the Gosu scratchpad. So from where did we get the scratchpad from? Let's close it. Let's close this as well. Let's close this. So on your top, you have something called Gosu scratchpad. For some people, this might not be visible. This entire tab would be towards your right side. All you need to do is, after your installation, you have view appearance. There is something called toolbar. If you don't enable that, all the buttons will go towards your right side. So better you keep that toolbar so that you'll get this over here. Okay. Now, how am I opening the Gosu Scratchpad? By clicking on there, you'll get a Scratchpad. So what is Scratchpad now? So to execute your instantaneous code, we make use of the Scratchpad. It is more like a rough book for you. So if you want to run something in the application level, you can make use of the Scratchpad. So where does the outcome of this Scratchpad get into? There is something called debug. So here you have to view your output that is being executed by the Scratchpad code. So is there any code that we execute will reflect here? Currently, we do not have any code. So to run the Scratchpad, there are three options. You have to make use of this run in debug process, the Scratchpad execution button. All right. Now, one second. Okay. Now, in your Java programming language, you have to make use of system.println.out, right? So in Gosu, if you want to print something into your application console, you don't have to do all those things. Like in Python, how you have a print statement, even in this specific Gosu programming language, you have something called print statement. So you can directly make use of the print statement if you want to print something. So let's print debug solutions. All right. Now let's try to execute this button. We got the output. So that simple it is to make a print statement. So hello world is the basic program any developer will start with. Okay, that's very simple. So let's go ahead. Now, before even listening this course, I recommend to go through the fundamentals of Java so that if I start explaining anything in terms of variables or data types or the fundamental of programming language, it will be easy for you guys to understand what I'm explaining here. So I'm stepping into variable declarations like the fundamentals of basic of any programming language, variable declaration. So some people might be from non-IT background. So variable is nothing but it is an object that stores a specific value. Now I'm going to declare a variable. So we are going to declare a variable with a keyword called var. Okay, that's the keyword that you need to make use of it when you are declaring a variable. Now we need to actually provide the name of the variable. Okay, now let's get to that in a pictorial way as well. Now let's just create the name of the variable. Let me say the name of the variable is A. I named it as A, or I can make it as test. You can give your custom name, whichever you want. Now, and I want to assign some value to this variable. So for that, you have to make use of equals operator and then declare the value 10 if you want to declare a value 10. Or you can declare any other string value. If you're declaring a string value, you have to provide it in a double quote. All right. Now let's declare another variable called test2. Let me declare it in double string. So I'll copy the same because even this is a string. I'll give it over here. Now let's try to print your test. All right. And let's try to print your test2. Awesome. Even this is getting executed. So one second, guys. Now, now let's keep the cursor over here and then do Control Q. It provides you the test is of a data type integer. So we did not declare the data type of the variable. By default, application understands if you declare any numeric value, it considers it as a integer. Now let's come over here and then click on Control Q. So it is declared a string, right? So anything that is provided in double quote will be considered as a string. You don't have to explicitly provide what is the data type of test and test2. Now, in 1 or 2 minutes, let's try to understand what is this data type and what is the name and what is the use of the keywords and what is this value. Let's get back to our Jitterbug. All right, let's take a simple example. You have a container. Let's assume this is your container. So in this container, you need to name this container actually. So the vessel name or the container name, I'm declaring it as the variable name. So in our case, our variable name was test. Okay, that's the container name. So into this container, I can pour milk, right? I can pour milk or I can store rice, right? And I can do what I can store whatever I want. The same way for each of the variable that we have declared, that means each of the container we have, normal container or a basket, whatever it is. So we are keeping something into it. The same thing we are doing even in programming. So we have declared a variable, that means we have declared a container. where you're storing either string value, that means a milk, or you're storing a rice, which is an integer, right? So you're declaring the data type and storing the value. So milk can be a buffalo milk or milk can be a cow milk, but milk is the so you can declare this container to be stored only for milk. So that means the data type is milk, and you can store a buffalo milk or cow milk. That's your actual content out of it. So you declare a container, that means you declare a variable with a name and store something into it, right? So while storing it, you need to understand what are you storing. So what are you storing is what your data type is. Milk can be of multiple types of milk. The actual content is buffalo milk, but what is the content that you're storing in it is milk. That's the same thing. So you are declaring a variable and you have a data type for it and you have the actual value of it. And to declare the variable, keyword is var, where. So that's about your variable declaration. Now let's come back to different types, like how we declare variables. Now, let's say I'm declaring another variable called a, and then I'm just declaring it as integer. And then I'll try to print this a, and then I'll try to comment on all these lines, or else again I'll get the same output here. Are you getting something? It's a null value. That means you have declared a variable, but you did not initialize the variable. Getting confused? Let's dig deep into it. Variable. So with our understanding, what we have done is we got a bowl with the name A, and that's all. We did not store anything. We can do that as well, right? You don't have to store. You're just buying out the vessels, but you're not storing anything. You want to store it at later point, right? So likewise, I've declared a variable and I'm declaring the data type of it. Now I can assign the value to it. Later point, I can assign a value a equal to 10. Now if I do a print statement of a, for the first one, you'll get a null value. For the second one, since the initialization is done with a 10 value, it will give you a value of 10, right? So initially you have declared an empty vessel and later point you're filling the milk with into it, right? The same way, later again you're checking if the milk is present or not. That's what 10 in a simple format. What are variables? So those are used for storing. So is it only storing of this kind of integers or any kind of string values? There can be any data type. You can store the values into it. All right. That's your variable. And also, let's get into, let me erase this variable a is equal to 10. I've just declared the variable and assigned the value also. Now, what we'll do is we'll try to learn about the loops, the if conditions, else condition, else if condition, for loops. So mostly you need if else and for loop. All right. So likewise in Java, even in Gosu programming language, you make use of the same if condition syntax. So now I'm writing a condition if. Likewise in Java, how you compare a value. So a is equal to 10, then open your flower brackets, this is your syntax. So you need to declare the keyword if, and then inside that you have to declare the condition. Inside the if condition, you have to write your logic. Then you can declare a else condition. If the condition is not matched, then it comes to the else condition. Now let's say inside if condition. Sorry, spelling mistake. All right, let's copy this, paste it here. I'll name it as inside else condition. So the overall syntax of your if condition is keyword if and the conditional operation here. If the condition gets satisfied, it will enter into this if condition. If not, it will enter into the else condition. Okay, now let's try to print this. Okay, so since a is equal to 10, the condition gets satisfied. This is an equals operator. So you can have greater than, less than, equal to, greater than or less than, or greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. There are multiple conditional operations. So it is common in Java programming, even in the Gosu programming language. So I don't need to cover that specific common programming in this sessions because this is only to understand the Gosu syntaxes. Okay, these operations, mathematical operations and logical operations, everything can be seen in the Java programming as well. So this is the syntax of your if-else condition. And if you want to add else-if condition to this, if you want to add nested if, you can add multiple else-ifs as well in between. And then I'll keep it as if a equal to 9. I'll name it as inside else-if condition. Okay. Now let's keep the value as 9 here so that the if condition will not get evaluated true and then else if condition gets evaluated true and this print statement will get executed. All right. That's on a high level on your if conditions and else if conditions and else conditions. Let's provide it as a and then try to print. This time it will go inside the else condition because both the conditions are not getting satisfied. Okay. Now let's get into the for loop. That's an interesting topic. So what we'll do is ideally in your Java, you have 3 parameters per loop. Like usually approximately you'll be declaring I is equal to 10, I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to 10, comma, I plus plus. This is the ideal syntax for your Java program for declaring a for loop. Now, the same thing, let's declare in terms of a Gosu. So for that, I'm just declaring a values. I'm just declaring a list of values to iterate over it. All right. So now let's write the syntax for your for loop. For, open your brackets, and usually I is the variable that iterates over your for loop. The same way, you need to declare a variable or an object which is iterating over the list. And then you need to make use of the in operator, and then you have to provide the list of values that you need to iterate over it. That's all. Simple. So this entire thing, what we are writing here, I plus plus iterating, it has to increment iterator by 1, and then it has to keep iterating over the for. The same thing, entire operation will be done by in operator. What in will do is, every time the for loop gets iterated, it will take one value out of it, and then it will go inside this for loop. Now let's try to print I. So in our case, ideally, your I should evaluate. No, when your for loop is getting executed, all these values should get printed one after the other, right? Let's try to comment out the above code. By the way, how am I commenting out in a single time? What I'm doing is control slash, and then I'm again doing control slash. It will comment out all the code. Now let's try to execute this piece of code, which is from 23, 25 to 27. Right? So what your in operator is doing is, it is taking each object inside this, each data, and then it is giving it to I. I is the current iterative object, and I'm actually printing I. Okay. Now I want to provide a mathematical operator with multiplied by, let's delete, execute. It is multiplying each value with multiplied by 2. 1 into 2, 2, 2 into 2, 4, 3 into 2, 6, 4 into 2, 8. So that's your for loop, as simple as that. You don't have to remember the entire syntax. All you need to do is make use of the in operator. Like there are certain other cases also, rather than me declaring the entire 1, comma 2, comma 3 and everything, what I can do is I can make use of a special syntax. This. What it does is I'll print this, I'll remove the iterator, I'll comment out this piece of code. Always remember, this syntax is used for repetitive data. Now, what it does is, it is going to take value from 0 till 10. Let's delete and execute. Okay. So this syntax, if you want to provide it till 5, so from 0, it ends till 5. Okay. If I want to start it from 2, just skip 2 to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what it is doing is the syntax itself indicates that this is the starting point, this is the ending point, and you have to provide 2 dots in between. That provides you a list of value in a sequential way. All right, that's your for loop. And let's come to your switch case. Okay, now let me declare a variable obj, which is an object, and I'm declaring the value b. So my object is of a data type string now, correct? And I'm going to provide the value as b. Now I want to make use of a switch case. So the syntax for switch case is make use of the keyword switch, and then you have to provide the condition, like which value satisfies. So you have to provide a value here so that in your case, it is going to match it. Okay, now you can write the case over here. So I'm just providing, if the value of the object is b, then do a specific task. So what I'm doing is print. This is alphabet v. Okay. And then once the case has been executed, let's break the switch. Okay. Break, case, switch, everything is from Gosu. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to explain the syntax of Gosu. Now, if the object is the value a, copy the same thing. Okay. Now we'll declare this alphabet a. Now, what happens is when you try to execute, your switch case will verify for each of the case. Whenever it satisfies, it does this work, and then it will break the entire switch, and then it continues. Now, our object value is b. So condition, the value that you want to compare, you have to provide it inside the switch. And then the value here, it is going to, this object will be compared with this case values. Okay. Now our object value is b. This is going to get printed and it will end the switch. Okay. Above one is also getting printed. I'll comment that. Okay. Now if you try to convert it to the letter A, this one, right? Now it has to get printed with this one. Okay. What if I give C? Nothing will get printed because the switch itself is not having a condition with C. So during that case, what we can do is, if none of the condition is getting satisfied, there is an option called default. which gets executed if none of the condition is getting satisfied. Okay, now let's print this. Even if you keep gel, the condition is not satisfying. You have a condition for B, you have a condition for A, you doesn't have a condition for Z. Let's try to print. It will execute to default. So that's your switch case syntax in Gosu programming as well. So when you want to iterate over multiple conditions and execute some value, you make use of the switch case. Okay, and we also have something called block, which we are going to learn in the further concepts, but just giving a high level walkthrough of the blocks. So there is something called block, like in your main course as part of our training, I would have explained the bundles. Like usually for bundles, you make use of the syntax transaction dot run with new bundle, and you actually start with backslash and provide the variable of a bundle, and then provide the arrow mark, forward arrow mark, and then provide the flower brackets. So what does this mean? This syntax, you can keep anything here. You can keep value A as well. So forgetting about all this code, okay? So what is this? This is actually blocks in Gosu programming language. Okay. In every programming language, usually we have lambda functions, which is like one line statement execution. Like you don't need to declare anything, like lambda functions. So like that, you have something called blocks in Gosu programming language. So the syntax how the blocks get started is you have to start with always with a backslash. That's the reason we are keeping it over here. And then you can actually add the list of arguments, or you can provide an argument like single argument or list of arguments. So in our case, the argument is A. And next, the third step is you have to provide an operator, which is hyphen and forward slash. This indicates or this marks the beginning of the block code. So block code is the one that we are going to write it here. So this indicates that we are starting the block code from here. I mean, blocks body, not the block code, but the blocks body. So after this, the blocks body will get started. So we can either make use of the flower brackets, which is like this, or you can, let me show you other example. X dot first where, I'll tell you what is first where and everything. ELT is equal to 3. I'm declaring a variable output, and then I'm accessing the first value of this entire list, which matches this. So after your blocks syntax have been started, the blocks body beginning has been started with this syntax, you have two ways of declaring the code. One is via using the flower brackets, or the other one is using the specific Gosu expression. This is your Gosu expression. So in the fourth step, you can either make use of the Gosu expression, or you can make use of the block code. Okay. Surrounded by a braces, you can write your custom logic over inside there. Okay, that's your blocks actually. That is the syntax of the block. So the blocks will always start with backslash provided with an argument. Here the argument is ELT element, and then you'll have the syntax, and then either you'll have a flower brackets or you have a Gosu expression. This is an expression which returns a Boolean value, right? So that's on your first sessions on the Gosu programming language. So in this session, we have learned about the variable declarations in Gosu programming. Also, we have learned about the if else conditions and else if and nested ifs. And also we have learned about the for loop and switch case. And also we have learned about the fundamental of the block and what is the syntax of the block. The syntax is backslash argument, and you have to provide the forward arrow, and then you have to provide the floor braces. or you can make use of the Gosu expression. So this block code is very much important, not this specific one. Syntax of this is very much important in your further programming as well. So that's on your first session of the Gosu series. So stay tuned. We'll be coming up with more and more videos on the Gosu programming. Like we'll be learning more on the loopings. I mean, loopings is completed today. We'll come up with classes, methods, and how do you trigger the methods, and how do you actually provide the input parameters, constructors, and parameters, constructors, declaration of static functions, non-static, these keywords, and furthermore, as part of your Gosu, and there are many block codes, we are going to learn about those as well. So that's on your class today. Let's catch up in the next session. Thank you so much.